Iraq and the Czech Republic. Decades of fruitful relations. The first phase, 1930 to 1970. Iraqi-Czech relationships are based on a solid historical background honoring the principles of friendship, mutual interest, and cooperation. According to the Diplomatic Archive, the beginning of the Czech representation in Iraq dates back to the year 1930, when the Republic of Czechoslovakia opened an honorary consulate in Baghdad at the consultation of His Excellency Jan Masaryk, the son of the founder of the Republic of Czechoslovakia, the Czech ambassador in London, and later the Minister of Foreign Affairs. The first official diplomatic relations date to 1933, 85 years ago, when a non-resident representation of Czechoslovakia was accredited in Baghdad, managed from Tehran, then Beirut. On October 6, 1958, Dr. Josef Jabokurtsky presented his credentials to the Foreign Minister of the Republic of Iraq, followed by the accreditation of Ambassador Ber Faik on October 24, 1959, as the first Iraqi ambassador to Czechoslovakia. This year, we celebrate 60 years of full diplomatic relations. The first phase of the relationship was highlighted by distinguished, well-established relations between the countries. In the 1960s, a new and vital step was taken through the involvement of Czech companies in many of Iraq's strategic projects. The contribution of these Czech companies was intrinsically important for the realization of the Iraqi Construction Council's development plans. This phase witnessed the signing of many economic and cultural agreements, for instance, the opening of the first Czech industrial fair in Baghdad in 1959, the building of Basra refinery, the establishment of new power plants, the construction of the Baghdad-Basra railway, the founding of factories producing tires, ceramics, textiles, and lumber in some Iraqi governorates. Concerning military cooperation, Czechoslovakia had its share in the armament of the Iraqi army. Beginning in 1964, Czechoslovakia exported dozens of tanks and L-39 aircraft to Iraq. Concerning cultural cooperation, many famous Orientalists such as Bedřich Hrozný and the world-renowned Alois Musil visited Iraq for educational purposes before World War II. Furthermore, in 1959, Iraq and Czechoslovakia signed a cultural agreement which yielded good results in the exchange of dozens of scholarships and grants, and the opening of the Czechoslovak Cultural Center in Baghdad. The second phase, 1970 to 2003. During the 1970s, Baghdad was one of the three most important economic partners for Prague, particularly in investments and industrial exports. The most important fields of cooperation during this phase were the construction of Basra refinery and a value of $63 million, to which 1,200 Czech experts contributed. The completion of Baiji refinery by Techno Export Company. The increase of Iraqi oil exports to Czechoslovakia. The establishment of the Zetor tractor assembly factory in the city of Al-Iskandariya, south of Baghdad, which produced more than 100,000 tractors, known in Iraq as Antar. The third phase, 2003 to 2018. The irrational policies of Saddam Hussein's regime duly led to the deterioration of bilateral relations. However, the toppling of Hussein's regime in 2003 paved the way for a new phase of a prosperous relationship. The post-2003 democratic Iraq encouraged the Czech Republic to reopen its embassy in Baghdad on June 23, 2003, followed by the opening of a general consulate in Erbil. The Czech Republic also dropped 80% of its claims, gave significant political support to the new Iraq, and listed it as one of the 10 priority countries in the Czech export strategy outside the European Union. Both countries have shown a strong tendency to exchange high-level visits. The most significant of these were the visit of the former president of the Republic of Iraq, the late Mr. Jalal Talabani, and the former Prime Minister, Mr. Nouri al-Maliki, to Prague, the visit of former Prime Minister of the Czech Republic, Mr. Bohuslav Sobotka, to Baghdad, the mutual visits of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Defense, and Industry and Trade, the exchange of high-level parliamentary delegations, and many other trade and technical visits and missions. Growing political relations have had a highly positive impact on our economic cooperation. The economic exchange between the countries has begun to grow again. In addition to heavy equipment from Tatra, Omnipol, Lompraha, and Unis, Iraq has imported L-159 aircraft from Ayarovodokhody. These, in addition to other military aircraft, represent a quantum leap in the Iraqi Air Force's fight against the Daesh terrorist group. The Iraqi military achieved its final victory at the end of 2017. The Czech Republic has also helped by sending military advisors as part of the global coalition against Daesh and trainers and instructors to train Iraqi policemen. It has also accepted dozens of Iraqi military pilots and judges for the same purpose, created invaluable humanitarian projects to treat the wounded, and is still helping in the restabilization and reconstruction efforts towards the return of internally displaced persons to areas liberated from Daesh. Efforts have increased to sign important documents for a new advanced level of cooperation. Strong commitment was shown towards the second session of the Joint Committee for Economic Cooperation, held in Prague in March 2018, headed by the Ministers of Industry of both countries, followed by an important visit of the Iraqi Minister of Defense in April, and mutual visits between Prague and Baghdad for a number of trade and military delegations. These negotiations resulted, along with previously signed documents, in the creation of a number of agreements and memoranda of understanding. Some have been signed, others have reached the final pre-signing stage. The most important of these are Agreement for the Avoidance of Double Taxation, Civil Aviation Agreement, Agreement on the Protection and Promotion of Mutual Investments, Memoranda of Understanding between the Ministries of Agriculture, Health, Education, and the Interior. 85 years have passed since the establishment of diplomatic relations and 60 years since the foundation of high diplomatic relations between these two friendly countries. The Czech Republic holds a notable position in the modern history of Iraq. No wonder it is a new homeland for hundreds of Iraqis, including national opposition figures to whom it offered safety and freedom after they were pursued and persecuted by Saddam's dictatorship. Iraqis in the Czech Republic reflect the true image of Iraq through their behavior, commitment, and diligence. The Iraqi community has formed an iconic bridge between the two nations. Many important figures have lived in it in past decades. It is important to mention that among them is Mahdi al-Jawahiri, the great poet of Iraq and greatest Arabian poet, who wrote 15 poems about Prague and its beauty. famous Škoda brand has returned to the streets of Baghdad, as well as the justly famous Bohemian Crystal to Iraqi markets. These and many other Czech products bring back beautiful memories of long historical cooperation between the countries. Stability and security are growing fast in Iraq due to the help it receives from its allies and friends, the Czech Republic in particular, for the solid beginning of a new era of a strong democratic Iraq. We give special thanks from the bottom of our hearts to the Czech Republic. May God bless your people.
زاهية وحبوبة ونادرة وطيوبة فيها بكل عذوبة هالقلبها